Need of a haircut. This lockdown is not doing my hair any good. Anyway, on with the service. So, UVCs, replacing the tubes. They should be replaced annually in spring, when the pond is most likely to go through its spring algae bloom. You want to ensure that your filtration system is running at peak performance. So UV tubes should be replaced annually. Every March, April time is a perfect time. Now I really like these systems. I think all of the Oase kit is, it's very good quality, robust equipment. And the bitron is no exception. It's a really sturdy piece of kit, as user friendly as they can be, and quite techy as well. So you've got a little LCD screen here which currently is displaying the water temperature, 10 degrees. You've got another screen here which is depicting 50, 75, 90 and 100%. It's essentially showing you if you've got 100% power, or you can switch it so that you're turning off some of the tubes inside, 50% power, 75, 90 and 100. And then you've also got a little screen here of 4 LEDs. Now I've been messing around with this and I've actually reset it. But once the UVs have been operating and running, there's a timer. And as the timer counts down to the time that the tubes should be replaced, these LEDs disappear in increments. So when I arrived here, before I was messing around with it, it was depicting one light, so it was showing you it's time to replace the tubes. To be honest, I wouldn't rely too heavily on this. I would just get in the habit of replacing them annually in spring. That's always the best practice. Now to do this, you've got one safety screw here, Phillips screw, that you need to undo, and once that's undone, one blue clip. And that's it. This whole ballast here then will come away with all the tubes attached to the ballast. And what's really nice about this is the quartz sleeve remains inside the unit. A lot of UVs, when you replace the tubes, the whole lot comes out complete with the quartz sleeve, and the quartz sleeve is very fragile. It can be a little bit of a daunting process trying to remove that quartz sleeve. So this is nice that you don't have to do that. So everything is switched off. Obviously make sure the UV itself is switched off before you're messing around with changing the tubes. One clip. Now I won't attempt this one-handed, but you can see how this section here will pull apart, and I'll do that now. There we go. Being ultra careful. It's very easy to lever this and not pull it out straight, and you can put a lot of stress on the quartz sleeve inside here and that could break. So once you've released the ballast, you can see here that you've got in this unit 3 60-watt Phillips PLL UVC tubes, and there's a nice aluminium or steel, I think it's aluminium baffle here which is separating the tubes and holding them in the correct position. And then down here you've also got another metal sort of locking mechanism. Now there's a black plastic collar. You'll see that they've actually depicted down here, embossed, a little padlock, open and closed. Twist that to the open position, and then this metal plate down here will slide up, and that will allow you to then release the tubes. They're just held in place with pins, and they'll pull out. Okay, so I'm going to remove this metal spacer, undo the locking mechanism, and then remove this section, and now you're free to simply pull out the tubes. You can see that they're just a little 4-pin connection. Now I always advise hanging on to the old tubes if they're working, obviously, and keep hold of them for the season ahead. There'll be a good temporary spare. If you put a new tube in and it's up and running and it were to blow prematurely during the summer months, there wouldn't necessarily be any real need to purchase new tubes. You'd be able to put in your old ones just to get you out of trouble for the summer months. But now, during spring, when the pond is at its most productive, the water temperatures are raising rapidly, the daylight hours are increasing, there's a lot more activity in the pond, and the whole system wants to be at peak performance to combat this spring algae bloom. So I'm using here genuine Oase UV tubes. They're made by Phillips. You could use any generic Phillips tube, although personally I would recommend the Oase units. I wouldn't, however, recommend any sort of cheap Chinese knockoffs. There are other manufacturers in the pond trade. I mean, TMC, for example, it's a very good tube, and they're cheaper. But I have found frequently with TMC and Arcadia and other units that many of the tubes actually, don't work on a system on the bitrons. I don't know if it's something to do with the ballast, but I've had a huge failure rate with other non-manufacturer specific tubes. So now I've just stuck to always using Oase branded tubes, and I never have any issues at all. They last throughout the full season without any problems. So we shall replace all 3 new tubes, very simply locating the 4 pins on the base of the tube with the appropriate holes. We're going to replace the little locking mechanism on the base here, which helps to secure the tubes and hold them in the correct position, and lock that into position. So that's now fixed. And then finally we're going to put the little spacer or bracket which holds the top of the tubes and stops them from moving around. Make sure that that's also on. Like so. Now, in addition to changing the tubes, it's always worth inspecting the quartz sleeve as well. There's no point in putting fresh tubes into a unit if the quartz sleeve is dirty and the water is not in contact with the UV emitted. So on the Bitron Ecos here, you can just see embossed on this plastic collar, little padlock open and closed mechanism here. And by grasping these 2 plastic lugs here, you can rotate to unlock the quartz sleeve and then very carefully remove it for cleaning. Now you'll see on this particular one, it's absolutely caked in limescale. This is going to have a really good clean with a light Brillo pad to get it back to clean. It will be pointless reassembling it as it is. It needs to have a good clean. So I'll do that now. You can see I've cleaned the quartz sleeve now, so it's back to nice and clear, so that the tubes are going to work very efficiently. I was just using a little bit of coarse wire wool just to give it a scrub, and then a bit of kitchen roll to clean it over afterwards. And it's also a good time to clean out this rotating quartz sleeve cleaner. So as the water enters the bitron, it hits this to the turbine here, which rotates, and that sits outside this quartz sleeve, and that spins and rotates, and that helps to free up any sort of algae and organic matter that might otherwise settle on the quartz sleeve, and it keeps it clean. It's not going to stop limescale from forming. It's going to help, but it's not going to stop it completely. So to reassemble this, you're going to have to make sure that everything's clean. So this needs to be cleaned as well, and then back on the bitron housing, all this area here is going to be cleaned up and then given a generous amount of silicone sealant or Vaseline, just to make sure that the quartz sleeve goes back in nice and easily. Now, before I relocate this quartz sleeve, I shall also add a generous dollop of lubricant all around the base of the sleeve here. You can just see that there's a rubber seal, and that will really aid in the relocation if I lubricate this first. So I've just slid the quartz sleeve and the sleeve cleaning mechanism back into the housing, and you can see here a nice generous dollop of Vaseline on here. I'm just going to locate that into position. Now I'm pressing against this. You can see that it hasn't fully located yet. If I just gently rotate that, it will find its correct position. There we go, and it's now gone all the way, and now I'm going to lock it into position by rotating. So that's it, that's the quartz sleeve cleaned and reassembled, and I'll now put the ballast and the tubes back into position, put it all back together, and that's it complete. Okay, so having reinserted the quartz sleeve cleaning mechanism and the ballast with the new tubes, it's a case of switching on, ensuring that there's no leaks, and finally resetting the little countdown timer, which will tell you when it's time to renew the tubes again. And to do so, we simply press this button and hold it down for approximately 10 seconds and the LCD panel here will start to blink. There we go. Then we hold it down again and you'll see these lights start to flash. There we go, we've got all 4 lights lit. That's it, that's on full. Now what will happen is, as the timer starts to count down, you'll see that in a few weeks or months time that these lights will turn off and work their way down to one single solitary light, and that shows you then it's time to replace the tubes. But again, as I say, really I would use that as a visual guide, but it's always important to replace the tubes every spring, March, April time. Thank you very much for watching. You've been watching Ed from Crystal Clear Aquatics, and this is another Crystal Clear tutorial. Thanks for watching.